let's go take a look at our Bighorn. Boy, there's a big coach. I thought it was a big coach. Yes, we got a, I think we got next door. Come in. I think it was a Fusion, big old tri-axle. Maybe that's a monster. Alright, so upstairs we go. And we're going to check all this. So, got some shoulder problems. There's a patch up there, there's a patch over there. Some problems with this AC. Also have problems with these shoulders. So when we take these all off, I'm going to glue it and we'll re-staple all this. Way too much booger on here. But when we clean all this up, there may be, you know, like a residue or an outline, if you will, of this, because we're not going to have the caulking way out here. If you have a ladder like this, water's going to get down in there, and it'll get down underneath this base into these screws, and it'll rot that out. So get those sealed. Here's how they did the ACs. Put them down, bolted them right here. So I was going to try and design a curb that would carry that, but it's not going to. It's just going to be terrible. So I redesigned yet another one, and that one will be better. Be more secure, be easier to service, because you keep driving these screws in. Now I believe these ones are threaded though, but I don't know what they're threading into. So if they're threading into some low-grade aluminum trusses, they're probably not going to stay so well. But the ones that we're going to do, they'll have some steel in it, and it'll be able to bolt it down, but it'll actually be bolted up underneath the unit like it should be, and I'll be able to get the curb on there proper. So, like I said, we've got all this. Look at all this shoulder up. That's quite a bit right there. And then this one, I had a piece of metal. There it is. Let me go get that piece of metal. Go back this way. I'm trying to keep this camera as steady as I can so I don't get y'all seasick. So we could probably do something like, hey, this video is sponsored by Dramamine. That's right. If you get seasick watching this video, watch this here. It's the same situation. Look how much of a gap we got there. I can't reach all the way, but we measured it. It's 1.5 inches if I turn it this way and put it on there, and if I were tall enough to slide that over, it's 1.5 inches difference there. That's quite a bit. So something's obviously compromised. You kind of see a belly in the roof right here where the AC is. So we're going to get that back. New decking going on this thing. We'll check all that out. Then again, they got the same problem with these shoulders. Let me back up here. The same problem with all these shoulders. They're all loose. So when we take them off, like I said, we're going to glue up underneath there, and then we're going to staple it down, and then we're going to put a protective strip over it as well to keep it all down there. So I'm not a fan of this dyed core. I'm guessing it's dyed core, but you know, they say put more on. Gee whiz. But this is what happens. Start getting these craters in there, and the UV light, that may have been an air pocket. So when we go around and we caulk things, we do 2 strikes. I do 2 strikes on purpose, because if that it was an air pocket, which it may have been, and that may have been, and that may have been, if it was, now it's breached, now you get a leak. But if you hit it with 2 strikes, what are the chances of having one air pocket hit over another? So you got another patch here. We had one over there, and then I thought I saw 3 on here, but you can see how this is all bubbling up like that. And you'll see when we start taking the roof apart here in a minute. Someone tried caulking on here, which, hey, I mean, it doesn't look great, but nonetheless, it's keeping water out. I don't like this insert trim. This is just that cheap plastic. We'll be replacing all that nonsense. So, and the same thing, you can see how they got all those bolts there. So, let us turn this thing off, and then we're going to show you what we got underneath this. And so we got the roofing off, and I think I showed you that already up there with the AC. But this is silicone. This stuff will just come right out nice and easy. This already pulled out. That's why I said, hey, I'm going to get a video on it. But we're just trying to take this off because the screws are in there. But I'm not a fan of silicone. It usually, see, just comes right out. Especially off the shelf stuff. Then you got to see what your substrate you're going to, and like what you're bonding it to. And a lot of times it will stick to certain things. But this, even though it's fiberglass, it's gel coat. It's got a slick finish, so it may not stick well like we just saw. So we'll get rid of this and put a new one down there. But this type of trim snaps over, so we've got to get all this loose so we can break it away, so we can get these pieces out. There's a couple screws in here holding this together. So that's what we're working on. Then, like I said, we're going to be moving forward to clean the rest of this up, and I'll show you that. Right on the set. doing another movie. All right. So you can see the sag in there. I'm hoping you can. And obviously pull the piece off. And what we got, I'm going to see if we can get in there with the camera. See that? This foam is not glued to the ceiling, so the ceiling is kind of sagging, so we got to fix that. And now you're saying, hey, so this is just 1x1 stock, that's all it is. 1x1, you can see that. Real cheap, easy. This in itself is not strong enough to carry the weight of the AC. That it isn't going to happen, you know, it's not going to carry it. So what they did also is this cheap stuff, this is how they bolted the air conditioner down. Right through these cheesy aluminum. Alright, so this isn't strong enough by itself. So what even makes it worse is, I guess they got real cheap and decided, hey, why do we need to use a whole length? Can we just splice some of the crap we got laying around in the shop somewhere? We'll go over there and take a look at it. Hey, they just spliced it in there with 3 little screws. I bet if I take these screws out, I don't even think it's TIG welded at all. I don't think it is, but I'd like to see that anyways. That's all there is, just a couple of screws, 3 sheet metal screws. That's it. It doesn't even go all the way through either. I mean, if you had to, you'd get more strength out of it if you bolted it in there that way. But I am never surprised at this. We've got a dead end wire here. I don't know where that goes to. But we've got a dead end wire. And then that's about it. So it looks like they had some issues and had to put this foam in on here. Because typically this is all plied foam. But maybe that's the way they designed it all the way down. It could be a universal panel. So it's kind of hard to say. But that's just plain out shoddy crap. I mean, that really is. I've seen some. I've never seen it spliced like that. So anyhow, we'll get her right. We got to fix it up. So now that I see this, I'm not sure if the one in the back. I mean, the one down there. I'm gonna tear that one up too. I want to see what's going on because you got the weight of the AC sitting on there. But you can also see how many times. We tried, someone already serviced the AC. Look at all them holes in there. There's another one right here. So I made up special curves anyways, so it's not going to have all that issue, and it'll work much better. Even when you go to service it, you'll be able to take the bolts out and put them right back in without an issue. So that's how I designed the other ones. You know, because I know people are going to come up here and have to work on it eventually. Something may go wrong in another year or two. If they do, well, I mean, what are you going to do? Leave it like that and say, oh, by the way, you're going to have to, you know, put some more booger on the roof to reseal it. So I try to put things together with anticipation that somebody's going to come behind us and have to do service work or this or that, or even like the way I do the antennas and I set them up on those mounts. Because at some point, if that antenna fails, I want to have someone have to tear out, you know, all the caulking and everything. Especially, I'm talking about like the wine guards is the ones the one that I like. I like them the way they mount. They're a little more expensive, but some of the other ones that we call, I call the bat wings that come up, not really a fan of those, but you know, if you had to take those off, you do have to reseal it. So I let folks know that, you know, prior to doing any installation, what, you know, is down the road, what you could expect. Anyhow, all right, enough jibber jabber for me. Let's take that other panel off and we'll see what's going on. Well, this is the rear. You can see this one isn't spliced. That one's not spliced in there. So over on the other side, the foam looks, let's see what this one is. Yeah, the trusses aren't really glued in. They're just set atop this here. So you can see them moving right here. So I possibly couldn't tear everything up just for the sake of that. It's not worth that. So we just need to make, because we're going to glue this back together. And then we're going to make up a new truss to carry this load on here as well. So it'll sit on here. You do have some structural strength on this because this is a really deep, it's a really deep ply foam. Let me see if I can give you an idea of how deep this is. The tape measure will go there. So right there we got probably about 4 inches of polystyrene foam, which is pretty strong if everything's all glued together. So, all right, well, let's get to work, try to figure some of this out and get some strength in it. Some of the things that we look for are wires. Want to make sure they're protected. These look pretty well. All this does is you're coming down here. This piece in here, this is just a piece of loom they put in to kind of protect the wires from this sharp edge, which that was pretty smart. That's a good way to do that, keep it protected. But look down here, see they got that one in there again, so this doesn't get chafed. But looky here, this is a 120 line. That's a big concern. We're gonna see what's going on with that. See if we can pull that out of there. Look at there. That was working its way in there. That's a no-no. So we're gonna get this one straightened away. Put something in there to protect it. That little electrical tape isn't gonna help it. So these are some of the things we look for. We do the roof, everything's all done, and then customer goes out and they're gonna go wherever. They're driving a couple 100 miles. Point is, put something on, it doesn't work, they're gonna think we put a screw through it. I got a phone ringing. So the way they had this truss in here, if you want to call it the supports, they just sat right in here. That's it. They just sat right on the foam. So there was, all of that weight was sitting on the foam. So I didn't like that idea. If we start cutting into this, we didn't cut into that, but if we start cutting into everything, what's going to happen is we're going to interrupt some of the AC trunk lines. I don't want to do all that. So I come up with another truss assembly that I designed, and we fabricated that up, and it's got feet on it. So this is the one that they have. You can see right there, it's just straight, meaning that it just sat right on top. That's it. So what we did, we went out of steel. This is the one we got out of the steel. It's a little wider, and it's also got some feet there right here to sit on the frame. So now all the way to the air conditioner is going to get transposed to the frame. It's not going to keep jockeying and shocking the actual applied foam in the ceiling. So now all we're doing now is just making sure it fits on the other end, and then we're going to secure it in here. It probably doesn't even need to. It's not going to go anywhere, but we're still going to put a couple screws in here. We're going to take this. That's the one I showed you already. I'm going to take this and we're going to drill it down here a little bit more, because the sheathing's got to come up here, and I don't want that in the way at all. So we're going to just run it down here a little bit more, make sure it's out of the way, and then we get these bushings that'll go on here to protect it. We'll just slide it in like that, so it'll protect it in that hole. So that's what we're working on right now. Well, this burly guy, this is our new truss that we made. Look at that, it's holding his petite self. Yeah, no one ever called him Skinny Minnie.
That's right. Even when I was born.
So, see, we got the legs on there. That's going to be the ticket right there. Hey, yeah, I'm not going to have an air conditioning sag, that one. We are redecked. Got it all decked over. Now you can see, like right here, we want to make sure that it sits nice and smooth together. So we're just sanding down a couple of the edges that just look like they need some love or attention. And then we're going to damp mop it all off and get all that so we can get the roofing on here. So we've already got our trusses in, we showed you those. So so far so good, we're moving along. We'll get our shoulder pieces back on here. That's what we're working on too. Got to get all the staples out and everything, so we'll get that going. So. All right, we've got the driver's side already glued. We're going to get this passenger side done. You can see we've got all the new decking down. We've got all our protective strips all down there. This is where there's a joint, so that'll come back together when we pull the roofing down on it. So we like to have everything all protected. So this one here looks like it popped up over the night or something. Look at that, seated back in, and then so we're gonna rock and roll and get this thing on here. All right, we got most of our roof done. The roof itself is done. The needs to be cleaned and cleaned up. Now what we're looking at are these slide outs. So this gasket snaps onto there, and then the other end had a little bit of a breach to it, so we're going to try to fix that. And we're looking over here
at the edge and make sure this is tight. But on the on this one over here, you can see we've got a cow patty right there. It's about to pop off, so we're going to put a new roof on that one, and it'll be a metal roof. We don't do membrane roofs on those. So that's where we're at so far.
All right, we are done. We've got our logo here. Date we installed it. We were trying to get this fantastic fan cover on here. It doesn't fit. That's why we still got tools on here. We've got all our feet right here on the back of the AC. We've got the counter flash in the front. Resealed all of the top. We got 2 layers on here. Actually, it's about 3. The second one that went on there, I didn't like it, so I trimmed it all back, retaped it, redid it. It was just not looking well. It was all squirrely. So, but yeah, when you get into these campers like this, try not to go too fast. But this one's got a slope going down, and then it comes up and levels off, and then it drops down on the front. And when it does that, the roofing only want to lay, it's a 2-dimensional product. So now you got 3 dimensions going on here. And sometimes you got to do these hems, and all we do is tuck and fold them, and then we re-weld them in there. Then, but the reason we've got this, go back to the air conditioner, the reason we've got that counter flash underneath there is so when the water comes down the top, it doesn't want to trickle back in. There's a foam gasket, that's all that's up underneath there. And I don't want the water getting back in there, so that counter flash pushes it down below this counter flash that we have built in here on the front. It'll push it down there and roll out. So, and then on the sides, the air conditioner frame is kind of corrugated underneath there where it's not gonna, the water doesn't get in that way. So we've also got our plumbing all done. Those caps, they're spring loaded. There's a couple of springs that snap in there. So even if a tree branch, I don't know how a tree branch could get it from here, but we'll say it came over the cover, whatever, popped it off for whatever reason, that's all sealed, and the water would just go into the holding tank. So we got everything all welded up, so you don't have all that slobbered caulking on there. You don't have all that. And we also have got our wire here for our wine guard. So if this ever failed, all you have to do is undo these bolts. And there's another one on the opposite side. Undo your coax, and then you can pop it off, and you can replace it real quick. You don't have to start trying to reseal anything at all. And those are mounted down inside here in these boots. So we get all that. We got the same thing in the front. We've got our feet right there, and we got another piece of counter flash there. You can see how it drops it lower. There's that counter flash. You can barely see it, maybe right there. And that's when the water comes down around the cover. It'll come down, drip down here, and then it'll roll out. So, but otherwise, we're all done. Now, the last thing we did, I think, was the slide-out roof, and we put an aluminum cover on it. That's what we did. So we wrapped that all in aluminum. So we fabricate all of that stuff here. Matter of fact, everything we fabricate. We don't sell anything. Keep in mind, these are not DIY videos. They're not tutorials. Nothing like that at all. There's a lot going on when you start trying to put these roofs together, and you know, I get really a lot of calls and emails and you know, on the YouTube and everything about this and that. There's just a lot to it. There really is. And some of the questions that I have coming my way, I kind of look at them and wonder if they're asking me like what size screw to use. How are you going to put the rest of it together? You know, you should at least know what size screws you're using and everything. So the other thing we did do, replace this insert gasket. That one snaps in and over, so it locks all the water out. I like those. We had a special order, and again, we don't sell anything at all. So if you wanted to get this roofing, this is a commercial grade TPO. If you wanted to get that, call it a commercial grade supply house, and they should be able to help you out. And they should be able to help you out with all the product you need. Get with your local supply house. So we pulled the scaffold apart because we had to do a lot of work. We resealed the whole entire coach, went around all the windows. These windows that are on here, we did attempted to say it was a Viking a while back, and on the window there was a sticker that said replace those gaskets every 2 years. So what I did is I went around and just put a lick around every one of those windows, you know, to seal them up. You got to be careful when you do the operative windows there. If they're going to operate, you better open that window up so you don't seal it shut, right? And then we also went around all the screws. We take all the screws out, and then we put caulking in there and drive them back in. Then I seal all around these ladder mounts. These aren't going to give you any trouble at all because they're all loaded. So those are done. But we did the same to those ones down there. Like, so went around the whole entire coach, all the latches, everything, took it all apart and resealed everything on it. So and that's why, like I said, that's why this is out. And but she's about ready to go. she's about ready to go. We appreciate you watching, and we see you on the next one.